I I literally, I'm not joking, Darius. I was so concerned. I said, my God, I cannot show up today with my hair not looking right. Can I be honest? I was really having concerns. I am so excited to talk to you, man. I am super excited.
Well, I'm
First,
excited to be here and excited to talk to you too. And your hair looks fantastic and you look fantastic also. So no need to have that as a concern. Now, if I
well,
keep on cutting, it's probably because I always tell people I'm going through menopause. I don't know what that's all about.
that's
It's
the
when I
thing.
turned 40, all of a sudden I just got hot. So I don't know what
Listen,
that's all about.
it's a thing. The thing. We're going to be padding together. I've got your incredible book here, but it may also kind of be a fan every now and then, if that's okay. So Darius, talk to us. This is interesting. I have so much I want to talk to you about. I've gotten a chance to do a little bit of research, and you have been around for a little while. And what I love is that the entire, as it's called, "My Hair Ain't Nappy" movement is
Mhm.
accredited to you, which is incredible.
Yes.
I read in a Black Enterprise article, and you said that you wanted to make sure that women and men are able to go out and look and feel their best with their natural hair. Talk to us
Absolutely.
about this concept of a movement. Do you wake up one day and say, I'm just going to do this? Help us walk us through this incredible process of how this came to life.
So this started for me as a child. Whenever I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And so when I was growing up, I always wanted to have a lot of hair on my head because a lot of the guys and icons in the mainstream, they all had hair. Michael Jackson had hair. Prince had hair. Midnight Star had hair. All these groups, Earth, Wind, and Fire, everybody had hair. And I wanted to have some hair on my head. But the thing that would always be drilled into me from my parents was that my hair was too nappy to grow out. And so it was such a derogatory thing for me. And in most cases, when children are coming up, they don't just innately have a low self-esteem or a lack of confidence. That's a seed that's typically planted into every person. And so that seed of just a bad thought process or esteem or perception of my hair stemmed from those moments right there in my childhood. And so as I grew up and when I got into college, I started to grow my hair out because I was not under the rules of my household anymore. And so as I was growing it out, I would feel through it, I would touch it, and I recognized that it was able to do things that I didn't think it could do. It would curl up when I wet it. It could coil up when I wanted to twist it around with my hands. And I just fell in love with it. And I recognized that all of the years that I perceived my hair as something as unkempt and unruly and unmanageable and ugly, I recognized that those words were synonymous. That's what defined nappy. Nappy encompassed all those terms. And I decided, you know what? My hair ain't nappy. And I decided to make that a proclamation for all people, specifically Black people and those with Afro texture hair, to accept, embrace, and love their hair and recognize that it's not nappy. And so I've been on this movement since 2010, I would say 2010. And it's been going well ever since.
That's incredible. And you mentioned something. You mentioned about the icons that we grew up with. We certainly grew up in this same time frame. How do you feel today, especially with your book being out as it has for as long as it has, this movement continuing? I wanted to mention something. Back last year, the governor of California made sure that California was the first state to ban racial discrimination against people based on their wearing their natural hairstyle in the workplace. How does it feel being able to be a part of this for so long? And talk to us about the future of this. Is this still an issue?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
still an
Well,
issue?
unfortunately, it is still an issue in the workplace for many people. But because of what you're referring to, which is the Crown Act is being implemented in states all across the U.S. And now people are able to go into the workplace and not feel ashamed to interview with their natural Afro texture hair or whatever their hair texture may be. They don't have to worry about being discriminated against for certain hairstyles, like your braids, like your locks, like your twists, like your afros, those style options that showcase your Blackness. So I love that these mandates are being implemented all across the United States. And I feel great knowing that people are now walking proudly and confidently wearing their Afro tresses, because so much damage has been done as far as our natural aesthetic as Black people over the years with our hair. I always tell people we've pressed our hair. We've learned the press and curl. We've learned the Jerry curl. But what we've yet to learn for real, is our natural Afro texture hair.
Amen. Amen to that. So, Darrius, it would have been fine, right, for you to have this movement, to have all of those passion behind it, to kind of get on the speaker circuit, but you decided to write a book about it, which to me changes the whole game, right? It changes not just the idea of this movement, but it also changes what your expectations were. What was it about writing a book? Why did you go this route? And what really inspired it beyond your passion for this? Why a book?
Well, it's so interesting because growing up, I never had any ambitions of becoming an author. Even while I was in college in my undergraduate studies, I never thought I would be an author. As a matter of fact, I always thought that I would be a musician because I grew up as an instrumentalist. And so I thought that music was going to be my life. That's where I was going to go. That's where I was going to grow. But as I started to grow my hair, I began to grow more in that industry. And the book, My Hair Ain't Nappy, was inspired primarily by Chris Rock's movie, Good Hair. There was a question. Yeah, that documentary was amazing to me, and it really hit home on so many levels. But one of the things that was most inspirational about that movie for me was there was a question that was posed to Chris Rock from his daughter. She said, "Daddy, why don't I have good hair?" And that was the inspiration for the documentary overall, but I didn't think that the question was fully answered. And so that's why I decided to write My Hair Ain't Nappy, just to offer some fulfillment for that that documentary work. And so I decided to put it in literary form and just spread the movement that way and answer the question that was not answered, because I could share in the lifestyle of being a father and being a husband and having daughters and having sons who I want to make sure that as they're growing in the earth, that they're growing with confidence and with self-acceptance and with self-awareness, and that they don't have to adopt any ideals of their hair being anything less than beautiful.
What a legacy, Darrius. What a legacy. I want to mention another quote that I read that you said. You mentioned, after years of doing hair, I decided that I would break down the walls of the salon setting and spread the word, helping people to revert or change the terminology that they use in reference to their hair. I believe that it starts with us. We can use more accurate terms when describing our hair, and we can teach the world around us to do the same thing. Talk to us about, again, your work, both through the book and how it has enabled you to, just what you mentioned, teach the world.
So it's so funny because as soon as I released the book and opened the website, I started to get international invites. And so my first international invite was in the country of Trinidad and Tobago. They were actually having their first natural hair expo, and they wanted me to come and speak on the topic of My Hair Ain't Nappy from a Black male's perspective, because at that time, YouTube had really dominated the natural hair world with a lot of female perspective, and specifically younger female perspective. But I wanted to come from the perspective of a professional hairstylist who specialized in natural Afro texture hair, but also from the perspective of a father, the perspective of a husband who has a wife who's worn all hair, whether it's natural, whether it's relaxed, whether it's pressed, whether it's curl. We've done all those things with my wife's hair. And so I wanted to be able to come from a different perspective to enlighten people in that regard. And one of the things that I learned throughout my travels across the just over the globe, all over the globe, and specifically in the United States, was that the term nappy had different connotations depending on the region. And so when I would encounter people from the North, they accepted the term nappy as a term of endearment. Whereas in the South, a lot of people referenced it as derogatory because, you know, it was always put to you as a word that said that your hair was bad or that your hair was not good enough for anything. So that right there was something that I learned, that there was a difference regionally. And I wanted to be able to go boldly, regardless of how it was interpreted in the North, and just let people know the word nappy, in my opinion and in my perspective, and really according to the perspective of many, is a derogatory term. I make it synonymous to the word nigger. You know, like sometimes if you hear nigga, it's like, okay, is this a fighting word, or, you know, or is this something that, and the same with nappy, you know, if I have to read between the lines to try to figure out what the word is, that means that it's not obviously good. And I prefer to reference Black people as well as Afro textured hair in with terms that are obviously good, like beautiful, like curly, like coily, like wavy, those things that are obviously good. But if you got to call it nappy, I don't want to have to read between the lines and figure out, are you downing me or are you uplifting me?
Exactly. If there's shades of gray, let's leave it alone, right?
Exactly.
So you mentioned though about how this book opened the door for international opportunities. And we obviously have so many authors and aspiring authors that are tuning in. Did this automatically happen, man? Was it just like as soon as you got the book done, it was automatic? Help us, walk us through
Well,
what
really,
happened.
it kind of was. So we launched the website, and you know, there are always one of the things that I would tell people, authors, or anybody who has a dream or an ambition. There is somebody out there waiting for you. There's
Mm,
always somebody waiting for you, and that was the thing that I recognized, that there were people who were waiting for me. When I released the book, I really could not see beyond my regional market. But it was at that moment that I recognized that people all over the world are looking for what it is that I have to say. They want to experience what it is that I have to offer. And they were able to Google nappy hair, my hair ain't nappy, and boom, there I go, popping up right there in that SEO. And so I just say, put it out there, especially for those people who are feeling stuck or stagnant in their completion of whatever your work is, whether it's a literary work, whether it's an artistic work, whether it's a musical work, whatever your work is, put it out there, because there is someone out there who is waiting for what only you have to offer.
love that. And so very true. Especially it feels like in this area of nonfiction, right? I mean, because you are officially in this arena of self-help, this arena of not just fashion, but also appearance. And there's certainly a self-development theme. Talk to us a little bit about being in that genre, a bit different from just the normal, it's about your appearance, but this is deeper than that. Help us
This
to
is
know both
way
the pros
deeper.
and cons.
Yeah. And so, you know, when we first released the book, I struggled with what genre category it would fall into. You know, I didn't know whether this was, I didn't know how to categorize it. And then I realized this is self-help, because everything about this book taps into the sociology and the psychology of Afro textured hair. It goes into the history of, you know, where it all began as far as how we perceive our hair, what we think about our hair, what we feel about our hair, what we say about our hair. And so, you know, recognizing that, I realized this is self-help. And because I was able, and I'm still able to grow with my hair, I wanted to show other people around me how they could also grow by allowing their natural Afro textured hair to grow. I began to connect with myself in ways that I never imagined connected with myself. My smile became brighter because I began to love and accept and embrace my hair. My face began to glow. My presence began to attract more people in the best way to me. And so all of that for me stemmed from me growing my hair, something that has been condemned by society for eons. You know, our hair has been, especially in the United States of America, we've been taught to hide our hair in so many different forms, whether it's covering it up with a rag, covering it up with a hat. In the cases for women, covering it up with chemical processes, toxic chemical processes, covering it up with damaging heat treatments and all of these processes, whether it's braids or weaves and wigs. And I know a lot of people, when it comes to the braid talk, they think, well, braids are natural. You know, it's a protective style. But I always tell people, it's a lot of women out here who have lost edges for years, and there is nothing protective about something that's snatching your edges from the front of your head. So, you know, those are things that we have to consider. And these are things that I go into detail about in the book. And so, you know, I always tell people this book right here is transformational, inspirational, motivational. It's those three things. So that's all about self-help for me.
It is. Talk to us about, pun intended, the extensions beyond the book that have helped for you in this movement, in this work, in this word. I mean, you preaching the word today, Darius. You know that, right?
Well, it's
Well,
so funny. That's
seriously.
never my intention, but what I'm doing is I'm speaking from the heart, because this book, it came from the heart. It is, as I mentioned before, it's a transformational book. I was able to bring this book to life because of my own personal transformation. And so I was able to just allow that to come out of me, and I'm able to speak about it with such passion and such genuineness because it's real. It comes from a real place. And so many doors and so many opportunities have been open for me as a result of writing this book. I never imagined, becoming a world-renowned speaker on the topic of natural Afro texture hair. I never imagined being a personality for the natural hair industry. None of those things ever dawned that I could be that person, because again, I didn't set out to do any of this. I set out initially to be a musician. And lo and behold, I entered into the beauty industry, and that's where I've lived. I've lived here for over 20 years now.
That's incredible. So talk to us about this life, especially post book. As you mentioned, being able to do speaking, being able to literally represent brands. What is a typical day in your life, Darrius? The life of an author, especially one that's done more than just write for money, but definitely done it for the movement. Talk to us
Yes.
about that. I want the
So my daily
411. I want the
life
real
is,
scoop.
I don't even know how I make it from day to day, only because one of the things that I mentioned is that I am a married man and I'm a father, and I'm not just a father, but I'm a father of 5 children. And all
Five
five,
children.
yes, I have 5
Bless
children.
you.
My wife and I have 5 children under the age of 13. And so, that's one thing, but they are the inspiration for all of that. And I'm able to watch them grow and with a confidence that I never experienced. Having to grow and live in the earth, having never heard anything derogatory about your appearance, whatever it is, only hearing that you're beautiful and that you're loved and that you're worthy and that you deserve all the good that life has to offer. That really is a typical day for me. And I don't paint that in the sense of every day is a smiley, happy day, because sometimes it takes the judgment and the constructive critique to even get to that place of learning that confidence and really being able to instruct that confidence in people. And I have to work on myself every day to make sure that I'm walking what it is that I want them to be. Like, it's not one of those do as I say and not as I do. You're walking as you see me walking. You're talking in the way that you see me talking. And so, there's that. Of course, I'm an entrepreneur, and so my wife and I own a beauty brand. And so, and I say this, it's not just me. I don't do this alone. So, I have help, and my wife, my wonderful wife, is able to help me in everything that I do, and I'm able to help her in everything that she does. And so, but it's just a busy life, especially now in this pandemic, and still being able to create ways to operate and still spread the movement, because there's a lot in front of us right now, especially on our screens. Everybody is competing for, their platform. And so for me, just making sure that I'm able to still remain relevant in a space that is so saturated with people with all different topics and from all walks of life. So it's a busy day, making sure that business is always operational. Of course, I'm sitting here in my salon, so this is not a fake background. This is actually my salon background here in Birmingham, Alabama. Haya Beauty is my luxury natural hair care salon here. And so I'm sitting here and making sure that we're able to keep the doors open and thriving here at Haya Beauty on a day-to-day, and still grow beyond that, being able to continue teaching. I woke up and I had a presentation this morning with another organization, and I have another presentation tomorrow with the Natural Hair Industry Convention. And so it's a very busy life. However, I do not complain. I am always, always, always grateful because this could have been the opportunity for someone else. And so because the opportunities were presented to me, I'm walking with them with no complaints at all. Everybody didn't accept these opportunities or may not have been privileged to have them, but I am. And so I'm grateful for that. And so I always walk in gratitude. And I think that that's one of the key elements that allows me to keep a smile on my face and in my heart, because I'm always able to look at whatever my life's experiences have been and just be thankful, for whether it's good. I'm thankful for all the good, and for those things that aren't so good, I'm thankful for that, because they all brought me here to My Hair Ain't Nappy.
Oh, that's incredible, Darius. And the fact that you go into this with the same level of gratefulness, it's kind of this sense of you're here, but it isn't too late to still learn, and the gratefulness is awesome. So we have some questions. Can I introduce some questions
Absolutely.
from our
Yeah.
great watchers and listeners?
Yeah.
Awesome. April asked this question. She asked, before writing your book, was there fear of the unknown at any time? And I would even venture to ask, since writing the book, is there fear also? So what do you have to say about that, Darrius?
So when I first started writing the book, I didn't have any fear in writing the book. It was when I was getting my book edited that I began to become fearful, because I went through several editors before I came to my final editor, and the first editor that I worked with, I thought that they did a really poor job at editing my work, because they stripped my voice from the book to give it a more clinic feel. And I was like, no, I don't know. This book is not My Hair Isn't Nappy. No, I know that that's not grammatically correct, but this book is My Hair Ain't Nappy, because that's my experience. And I'm a Southern gentleman. And so we don't speak in isn't all the time. A lot of time we say ain't, and so
Yes.
So that right there, that was one of my biggest fear moments in the process of writing the book, making sure that I was able to have the book released without it stripping my voice and my culture and my Southern tone away from the work. So being able to do so in a way that included Southern vernacular, Southern Afro vernacular, but still keep it consistent with it being a polished and refined piece of work, if that makes sense.
Definitely
So
makes sense.
that was my biggest fear. But outside of that, and even to this day, I still walk with no fear regarding this book, because it's truth. And, I know that this book is for who it's for. There are some people who may not have the palate for this book, and that's okay, because it's who it's for.
Awesome. Awesome. No fear. I like this. I like this. Here's another great question, Darrius. What else are you working on that you can help us to know about? Especially, is there another book
Yes,
that's kind of
absolutely.
looming?
So I'm really excited. So I am going to be doing a re-release of My Hair Ain't Nappy. This is actually going to be the fourth edition of the book, and so I'm excited about that. But that's not all. I have another book that is, when I say it's still self-help, but it is unlike anything that I could have imagined coming out of me, and I'm so excited about that work right there. And so it goes deep into the psyche of hair and the psyche of self and what it says about you. And so I can give just that bit, that tidbit right there. I am more excited about this next work than I've been about anything in a very long time. And I've been working on it for quite some time. I would say I've been working on this piece for about 5 years now. So I say that because it's not, whatever you're working on may not always be, I'm going to work on it this year. It could take time, to get that work completed. And this right here is 5 going on 6 years in the making, but I'm not rushing it because it's good. It's so good. It's so good.
Oh man, you know how to get somebody interested in whet an appetite. I will tell you that. Tell us how we can follow you and know when this incredible work is coming out, Darrius. How can people learn more, connect with you, stay in touch with you?
Absolutely. So, of course, I am on social media platforms. And so you can follow me on Instagram as Darrius Peace. That's DARRIUS peace as in world peace. And I'm on Facebook under that same name. You can follow the Darrius Peace, Your Natural Hair Expert page on Facebook. And then my website is DarriusPeace.com. And so that's one way that you can reach out. But the place that you will most you'll more easily find me is at HayaBeauty.com. And that's HAYAHBEAUTY.com. And that's where you can always find me at HayaBeauty.com. I'm always there. And I'm always there to answer any questions or concerns that people may have regarding their experience with their Afro textured hair, and for diversifying whatever their experience is into authorship.
Incredible. I so appreciate you. And I actually hear so many people and watching them chime in. April said, amen. I commend you on sticking to your truth and using your voice to inspire others. And that's what you've done. That is what you're doing. You are walking your talk, which I don't think is always easy for authors to do, is it?
Well, for me, I don't know any other way to do it. It would be extremely uncomfortable to walk any other way than outside of my truth. Awesome. It's easier to walk that way.
I'm glad to hear that. And my hope is that others will hear this and be inspired to do the same. Darrius, it's been incredible talking to you today. I want everyone to make sure that you stay tuned. We've got another author that's coming up at 1:30. And also make certain to follow Darrius at all of the places he mentioned, as well as our different bookstores and the different vendors that are located at the very bottom of your screen. Check in, chime in, connect with them as well. We will be back soon. Darrius, thank you so much. And thank you for the comments on my coils. I'll make sure to stay in touch.
Okay. Have a happy.
Thank you so much, man.